When I say stop seeking validation, I'm not just talking about relationships. I'm talking about a mindset, a way of living that shapes how you show up in every area of life. The nice guy who always ends up in the friend zone is addicted to approval. His energy is constantly asking, do you see me? Do you like me? Do you approve of me? And here's the problem with that. The moment your sense of worth depends on someone else's reaction, you've already given away your power. Think about it. When you're chasing validation, you're not leading, you're following. You're not living from your own inner compass. You're living as a reflection of someone else's perception. And women can feel that instantly. They may appreciate the attention. They may even say you're sweet or such a good friend. But deep inside, they don't feel that magnetic pull toward you. Why? Because you've put them on a pedestal and shrunk yourself in the process. There's a deep psychology behind this. Human beings are wired to value what is scarce and to overlook what is overly available. When you make your validation cheap by giving it away too easily, and when you beg for theirs in return, you reverse the natural polarity of attraction. The man who commands attention without demanding it is the man who doesn't need validation because he already carries a sense of wholeness inside himself. Now, let's take this deeper. Why do so many men fall into this pattern? Often it begins in childhood. Perhaps you were taught that love had to be earned by being good, by being obedient, by keeping people happy. Maybe the only time you felt worthy was when you pleased others. That conditioning follows you into adulthood. Suddenly you're 25, 30, 35 years old, and you're still trying to earn love by overgiving, by overpleasing, by sacrificing yourself for someone else's attention. And yet, no matter how much you give, it never feels like enough. Why? Because the void isn't in her recognition. It's in your own lack of self-recognition. And here's where philosophy meets psychology. There's a famous quote by the Stoic philosopher Epictetus: if you want to be invincible, then don't put yourself in a position where you can be harmed. Seeking validation is exactly that. It's putting yourself in a position where your worth can be harmed by rejection, by indifference, by someone not texting back. When your self-esteem lives in somebody else's hands, you've made yourself vulnerable in the worst way. So what's the alternative? It's shifting from external validation to internal grounding. It's building an identity where you don't ask, am I enough? But instead you live as if I am already enough. This doesn't mean arrogance. It doesn't mean ego. It means anchoring your worth in something unshakable, your values, your mission, your character. When a man walks into a room and he isn't seeking approval, people feel it. His presence says, I belong here, without words. And women are drawn to that energy, not because he's chasing them, but because he's radiating something rare, self-sufficiency. It's the paradox of attraction. The less you need someone's validation, the more attractive you become to them. Let me be clear, kindness is not the problem. Being caring is not the problem. The problem is when kindness becomes a currency used to buy affection. That's when it loses its power. True kindness flows from strength, not from desperation. So if you've been stuck in the pattern of being the nice guy, always hoping she'll finally notice how good you are, the first step is this: stop asking to be chosen. Choose yourself first. Stop needing someone to confirm your worth. Stand in it, own it, live it. Because the moment you stop seeking validation, you step out of the friend zone, not just with women, but with life itself. And if there's one thing I want you to walk away with, it's this: attraction isn't about being noticed. It's about being undeniable. One of the most overlooked truths in human psychology is that people do not respect what does not resist them. Boundaries are not walls. They are signals of self-respect. And the reason so many nice guys end up in the friend zone is because they believe being endlessly available, endlessly accommodating is the highest form of love. In reality, it's the fastest way to erase your own value. When you say yes to everything, when you drop your plans at the slightest text, when you allow her comfort to always override your priorities, you're sending a silent but powerful message. My time is less important than yours. My needs are secondary. My life revolves around you. Now, that may sound romantic in movies, but in real life, it destroys attraction. Because attraction thrives on polarity, on the tension between two individuals with their own center of gravity. Think about it in philosophical terms. Every great thinker from Aristotle to Nietzsche has spoken about balance and proportion. Boundaries are that balance. They prevent you from dissolving into another person and losing your identity. Without them, you stop being a man she respects and start becoming an extension of her convenience. And let me tell you, convenience rarely inspires desire. Now let's explore the psychology behind this. Human beings test limits, often unconsciously. A child tests the patience of a parent. An employee tests the firmness of a boss. And in relationships, people test boundaries too. Not because they are manipulative or cruel, but because they're wired to assess where the lines of strength and weakness are drawn. When a woman notices that you have no boundaries, she doesn't consciously think, "Oh, I'll friend zone him." But she does feel on a deeper level that you are not a man she can look up to or be drawn toward. She feels that you are safe, but not compelling. Boundaries are not about saying no to her. They're about saying yes to yourself. They are about honoring your time, your energy, your values. When you say, "I can't meet today, I already have plans," you're not being rude. You're showing that your life has structure and purpose outside of her. That creates respect. Respect builds attraction. Attraction sustains connection. Let me give you an example. Imagine a man who constantly cancels his gym sessions, his work projects, his personal commitments every time she calls. At first, she might find it flattering, but over time she will notice he lacks discipline, he lacks priorities, he lacks backbone. Compare that to a man who says, "I'd love to see you, but tonight I'm training. Let's meet tomorrow." That small act communicates something powerful. His life has weight. His word to himself matters. And if his word to himself matters, his word to her will matter too. It's important to remember that boundaries are not barriers. They're bridges. They don't push people away. They teach people how to approach you. Without them, people walk over you, not out of malice, but because you never placed a line. With them, people are guided into a relationship with you that's rooted in mutual respect. Philosophically, boundaries are the outer expression of inner dignity. A man with no boundaries has no dignity, and without dignity, attraction cannot survive. When you hold your ground, you're not just keeping your schedule, you're keeping your essence intact. So if you want to stop being the nice guy who gets friend zoned, stop confusing self-abandonment with love. Stop thinking availability is your greatest asset. Your greatest asset is discernment, the ability to know when to give and when to withhold, when to say yes and when to say no. Because in the end, boundaries are not just about protecting yourself, they're about teaching the world how to love you correctly. And if you remember nothing else, remember this. Respect begins where self-respect refuses to end. One of the biggest misconceptions men carry is that being pleasing will make them attractive. They believe if they can just show how caring, how agreeable, how accommodating they are, then eventually she will see their worth and reward them with her love. But relationships do not work like business transactions. Attraction is not earned through servitude. Attraction is sparked by presence, by direction, by leadership. When a man slips into the role of the pleaser, he unknowingly abandons his natural masculine energy. Instead of leading, he follows. Instead of creating, he reacts. And while his intentions may be good, he thinks he's being respectful, kind, considerate. What she feels is the opposite of attraction. She feels she is carrying the weight of direction while he simply orbits around her. That dynamic doesn't create polarity, it creates imbalance. You see, leadership is not about dominance. It is not about controlling another person. It is about being grounded enough in yourself that others can trust your direction. Think of it this way: when two people dance, one leads and one follows. If both try to lead, it becomes chaotic. If neither leads, the dance collapses. The beauty of the dance comes from the harmony of polarity. In relationships, this principle holds true. A man who pleases but never leads creates the same effect as a dance without rhythm. Confusing, uninspiring, forgettable. Let's dig into the psychology here. People are drawn to certainty. A woman is not searching for a man who will constantly ask, "What do you want me to do?" She is drawn to a man who knows where he is going, who has clarity, and who can invite her into that clarity. Pleasing is about chasing approval. Leading is about creating vision. And vision is infinitely more attractive than approval seeking. Think about historical figures who inspired loyalty, leaders who moved nations, thinkers who shifted civilizations. They weren't people who asked permission for every step. They weren't endlessly agreeable. They had conviction, they had direction, and people naturally gravitated toward them. Now, apply that on a personal scale. If you are the man who constantly bends, who never stands, who waits for her to decide everything, where to eat, what to do, how to move forward. You become passive, and passivity never breeds desire. This doesn't mean disregarding her input or acting selfishly. In fact, true leadership requires deep awareness. It means listening, considering, and then confidently making choices that align with your values. It's about embodying a sense of strength that reassures her she can lean into your energy. When you shift from pleasing to leading, you stop being a servant hoping for recognition and start being a man who invites respect and admiration. Now, here's the irony. Many nice guys think that leading will make them appear arrogant or controlling, so they avoid it altogether. They believe that constant deference is the safer option. But the truth is, avoiding leadership communicates fear. It says, I'm too scared to make a mistake, so I'll just leave everything up to you. And fear never inspires attraction, it suffocates it. Philosophically, leadership is about responsibility. The man who leads is the man who takes responsibility for himself and his direction. Without responsibility, there is no foundation. Without foundation, there is no respect. Without respect, there can be no attraction. It's a straight line. So, if you've been living in the role of the pleaser, ask yourself, am I giving because I want to, or because I'm hoping to be rewarded? Am I following because I respect her lead, or because I'm too afraid to take my own? These questions will reveal whether you are rooted in strength or in fear. And I'll leave you with this. Women don't fall in love with men who revolve around them. They fall in love with men who move with purpose and invite them to join the journey. Stop being the pleaser waiting for permission. Start being the leader who inspires respect, because attraction doesn't follow the man who asks, what do you want me to do? It follows the man who knows where he is going. One of the fastest ways to land in the friend zone is by being predictable. When a woman knows exactly what you'll do, exactly how you'll respond, exactly how available you'll be, there is no tension left. And tension is what fuels attraction. Without it, what you're left with is comfort, and comfort alone does not create desire. It creates companionship, friendship, familiarity. Valuable, yes. Attractive, no. The truth is, human beings are wired to be drawn to what feels just out of reach. We are stimulated by mystery, by the sense that there is something more to discover. That is why people chase dreams, why we explore the unknown, why we get hooked on stories that don't reveal everything at once. Mystery ignites curiosity, and curiosity is the spark that keeps interest alive. Now, here's where many nice guys get it wrong. They confuse transparency with overexposure. They think being good means putting everything on the table immediately, their feelings, their availability, their time, their devotion. They show all their cards on the first hand. But once everything is revealed, there's no sense of discovery left. It's like reading the last chapter of a book before the beginning. You know the ending, and suddenly the journey loses its magic. Psychologically, challenge works in a similar way. People do not value what comes without effort. When you give all your attention, all your affection, all your energy without her having to earn it, you devalue your own currency. You are essentially saying, you don't need to bring anything to the table. I'll do all the work for us. And while that may feel noble, it's actually stripping her of the very experience that builds attraction, the pursuit. Think of it this way. Why do we prize gold? Not just because of its beauty, but because it is rare, it is not easily found, and it requires effort to obtain. The scarcity enhances the value. The same applies in relationships. When you are always available, always saying yes, always texting first, always waiting on her response, you are abundant, not rare. And abundance, when unchecked, breeds indifference. This doesn't mean you should play games or manipulate. Authentic mystery is not about withholding just to provoke. It's about living in such a way that you are not fully consumed by one person. It's about having depth, layers of passion, ambition, curiosity that she cannot instantly unravel. Challenge is not about creating unnecessary obstacles. It's about requiring that the other person also invest, also engage, also show up with effort. Philosophically, this connects to the idea of polarity again. Mystery preserves polarity because it keeps space between two people, space that creates intrigue. When everything collapses into complete familiarity too soon, that space disappears, and with it, the magnetic charge. Attraction needs room to breathe. Let me make this clear. Women are not drawn to men who are indifferent. They are drawn to men who are selective. There's a profound difference. Indifference says, I don't care about anyone. Selectivity says, I value myself enough to give my energy where it's reciprocated. Mystery then is not about being distant for the sake of it. It's about carrying yourself in a way that says, there is more to me than what you see now. And if you want access to it, you must show up fully too. When you combine challenge with authenticity, something powerful happens. She no longer sees you as the nice guy who is always waiting in the background. She sees you as a man with standards, with depth, with layers that she wants to discover. And the desire to discover is what keeps attraction alive long after the initial spark. So here's the shift. Stop thinking you need to be completely known to be loved. Start realizing that being slightly unknown makes you unforgettable. Because in the end, the opposite of mystery is boredom. And boredom is the fastest road to the friend zone. One of the greatest mistakes men make, and perhaps the most tragic, is placing a woman at the very center of their universe. They build their lives around her attention, her approval, her presence, as if she is the only goal worth striving for. And then they wonder why she eventually loses interest. The answer is simple. When you make her the mission, you stop being the man she was drawn to in the first place. You see, women are not attracted to men who orbit around them. They are attracted to men who are moving somewhere, men who are on a path, men who are driven by a purpose greater than winning her affection. This is not to diminish her value, it's to remind you of yours. When you abandon your growth, your ambitions, your potential, you dim the very light that makes you magnetic. Psychologically, this ties into something deeper. Attraction is not about dependence, it's about energy. When your entire identity is consumed by one person, you become needy, and neediness is heavy. It suffocates. It tells her, without you, I am nothing. And that kind of dependency does not inspire love, it inspires distance. Because deep inside, no woman wants to carry the unbearable responsibility of being your sole source of meaning. Now, let's approach this from a philosophical angle. Every great thinker, from the Stoics to modern psychologists, has spoken about the importance of self-actualization, the process of becoming your fullest self. A man who is growing, who is building, who is expanding his mind, his body, his craft, is a man who remains in motion, and motion is magnetic. Why? Because it symbolizes life. Stagnation, on the other hand, signals decline, and decline is never attractive. When you pursue growth, you're not just becoming more successful, you're becoming more alive. You're feeding your mind with knowledge, your body with strength, your spirit with purpose. And when you stand in that energy, you radiate something far more powerful than words. You radiate vitality. Vitality cannot be faked. It is felt. It is the quiet confidence of a man who knows he is building something bigger than himself. Think about it practically. A man who spends all his time waiting on her calls, rearranging his life for her texts, and investing all his energy in trying to win her, he is shrinking. His world is small. His conversations are repetitive. There is no freshness, no depth, no expansion. Compare that to a man who is pursuing mastery in his career, who is training his body, who is traveling, who is learning, who is building. That man does not need to convince anyone of his worth. His life already demonstrates it. And here's the paradox. When you stop chasing her and start chasing growth, she starts chasing you. Because women are not inspired by a man who has nothing going on. They are inspired by a man whose life is so full, so purposeful. That being with him feels like stepping into a bigger world. This doesn't mean neglecting love. It doesn't mean becoming cold or unavailable. It means putting things in their rightful order. Your purpose comes first. Your growth comes first. Your mission comes first. From that foundation, love becomes richer, healthier, more balanced. Without it, love becomes suffocating, fragile, and destined to collapse. So if you want to stop being the nice guy who gets stuck in the friend zone, stop making her your ultimate goal. Build yourself into a man who is worth pursuing. Let your life be evidence of your value, not just your words or your availability. Because at the end of the day, growth is not only attractive, it is irresistible. A man in motion, a man expanding, a man living fully will never need to beg for attention. He will command it. And if you take nothing else from this, take this truth. The man who pursues growth never has to chase love. Love chases him. If there's one theme running through everything we've talked about so far, validation, boundaries, leadership, mystery, growth, it all comes down to this embodying masculine energy. Without it, every other principle collapses. With it, everything else begins to align naturally. But what do I mean by masculine energy? Many people confuse it with aggression, dominance, or ego. That is not masculine energy. That is insecurity wearing a mask. True masculine energy is rooted in presence, direction, and strength. It is the calm assurance of a man who knows who he is, where he is going, and what he stands for. Women are not attracted to passive men who wait for instructions. They are not drawn to men who shrink from decisions, who hesitate to take initiative, who apologize for existing. That is not energy, it is absence. Attraction cannot grow in absence, it only grows in presence. Masculine energy is the willingness to step into that presence fully, to hold your ground, to stand firm in your convictions even when it's uncomfortable. Let's break this down psychologically. Polarity is the law of attraction in human dynamics. Feminine energy is drawn to masculine energy not because one is better than the other, but because they are complementary. Where one is receptive, the other is assertive. Where one flows, the other anchors. When a man abandons his masculine role and becomes overly passive, overly accommodating, overly soft, polarity disappears. And when polarity disappears, attraction dissolves. Now, this doesn't mean becoming rigid or unfeeling. True masculine energy is not about shutting down emotion. It is about mastering it. It is the ability to feel deeply without being controlled by those feelings. It's the steadiness that allows others to trust you, the groundedness that says, no matter what happens, I am not easily shaken. That's what creates safety. And safety, combined with strength, is what allows attraction to thrive. Philosophically, masculine energy is tied to responsibility. To embody it is to accept the weight of your own life. It's saying, I will not wait for someone else to decide for me. I will not live by default. I will move with intention. When a man avoids responsibility, he avoids his own potential. But when he embraces it, he begins to radiate a force that naturally commands respect. Think about the men who inspire you most. They are not the ones who tried to be endlessly nice, who blended into the background, who sought constant approval. They are the ones who carried themselves with strength and certainty. They weren't perfect, but they were present. They weren't flawless, but they were firm. That is masculine energy in action. And here's the key: you don't fake masculine energy. You cultivate it. You build it by keeping your word to yourself, by setting boundaries, by pursuing your mission, by leading with clarity, by growing continually. It is not something you put on like clothing. It is something you embody from the inside out. If you've been the nice guy, stuck in the friend zone, constantly overlooked, it is not because you are unworthy. It is because you have not yet stepped fully into your own masculine energy. You've been waiting for permission, when in reality, attraction begins the moment you give yourself permission to be who you are meant to be. And I want to leave you with this final thought. Women are not searching for perfection. They are searching for polarity. They are drawn to men who live with conviction, who radiate direction, who embody strength not as dominance, but as presence. So stop apologizing for your masculinity. Stop watering yourself down in the hope of being liked. Step into your natural energy fully, unapologetically, courageously. Because when you embody your masculine essence, you don't have to beg for respect, love, or attraction. You become the kind of man who naturally inspires it. And that is the moment you will never find yourself in the friend zone again.